Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Time Out with Derek and Joe. For Joe Azalina, and welcoming back once again, Phil Angle. Welcome back, Phil.
Yeah, thanks for having me back, guys.
And we are, as Joe loves to delve into, we are diving into a little baseball today, Joe.
Yeah, I do. I really want to say that, it's been really interesting covering the NFL and some college football, but this is where I live. I think, Derek, you love baseball, and I know Phil does too, just getting to know him a little bit. Yeah, we're gonna go over some interesting topics. We're gonna go over some front office changes. We're gonna do some MLB signings of the minor variety. And then we're gonna cover in our second half, I'm gonna call them the intriguing top free agents that are going to sign in multiple places, hopefully not two or three in one spot. We'll talk about that, I'm sure. And then we're going to do – Phil's going to be on the hot seat. He's going to tell us some of his opinions on some of the baseball rules and et cetera. So we got a good show for the baseball fans out there today, guys.
Now, as usual, we do love baseball, yes, but we are a full sports show, and hopefully we proved that a little talking some NBA basketball last time around. But we're going to talk about some off-season baseball so far, and maybe down in the line in a month or so, we'll really delve into the free agents who actually signed, since it's been a little quiet so far. But our first topic, as Joe mentioned, is the front office changes that have come into effect so far this year. There have been several big, well, not really signings, but big people coming on to the front office, different teams. The first one is Kim Ng for the Miami Marlins, Phil, who this is her first time being, of course, a general manager, but and she is the first woman to become a general manager, and now, and I believe it was the second Asian of Asian descent. Just a quick quote from Kim that she's entered the Major League Baseball as an intern, and after decades of determination, it is the honor of my career to lead the Miami Marlins as their next general manager. We are building for the long term in South Florida, developing a forward-thinking, collaborative, creative baseball operation made up of incredibly talented and dedicated staff who have, over the last few years, laid a great foundation for success. This challenge is one I don't take lightly, but I got into the business. It seemed unlikely a woman would lead a major league team, but I am dogged in the pursuit of my goals. My goal is now to bring championship baseball to Miami. I am both humbled and eager to continue building the winning culture our fans expect and deserve. Phil, what are your thoughts on Kim Ng becoming the first female general manager in baseball?
So it was big news when it happened. I think it's about time. I think if there's one person to kind of break that gender barrier, I think it's her. She has a pretty extensive background. Just kind of looking at her detailed resume, I think she's well worth it, or well deserved. She's been in baseball over 30 years. She started off working in the White Sox front office for 6 years, and that's after following undergraduate college degree coming from the University of Chicago, one of the better schools in the country. She played softball there, a really good school. And then from there, from the White Sox, she was with the AL office. And then, she spent a lot of time with the Yankees during that dynasty era. I think that's probably when Derek Jeter got to know her. And I think that's why he had her listed as one of his top candidates and chose her. And then after the Yankees, she was with the Dodgers, and then for the last 20 years, for the last 10 years, she's been with for MLB, serving as the senior VP of baseball ops. So I think she's got very extensive baseball knowledge, resume. I think she's probably the perfect candidate for the Marlins, who they have a lot of young guys coming up, and I think she's she can do wonders with that team, I think. So. Yeah.
And hey, hats off to Derek Jeter, whether or not he was the actual one who made the move, but it is his organization who made the move to bring in Kim and hope all the best. And hopefully it becomes a little bit of a trend and gets it kind of moving, maybe throughout all sports. You've seen a lot of assistant coaches and stuff in the NBA, but you really haven't seen larger like presidents or general managers so far.
One in really the decision making,
right,
position. She's one of the first. So good to see.
That's very good to see. The next front office change we have here is Theo Epstein deciding to leave the president position of the Chicago Cubs. Now he won a World Series. He brought a World Series there, but he announced last Tuesday that he will be departing the organization as president of baseball operations, effective last Friday. He mentioned in a quote that he's incredibly grateful for the last 9 years. It has been really a life-changing experience for me and my family. Now, it was interesting that it came on the final year of his 5-year extension, Joe. He mentioned, they've said several places that he wanted to stay there for about 10 years, and that's about what he did. And now the question, I guess, is does he go somewhere else, or maybe he'll take some time off with his family and whatnot, as they usually say. But and you will almost wonder if that marks the end of this current Cubs roster with Rizzo and Chris Bryant and whatnot.
Well, I think these jobs are really, and we all know it, they're really high pressured, right? I mean, they're day after day, the grind of the work day, but also you're really like, you got to win. And for some reason, he's been able to do it in two, as you said, like the Red Sox and the Cubs. You're talking about two major sports organizations. And also, not to mention, you have the Patriots and you have the Bulls in both cities, right? Like they're big markets. So he's a great front office guy. He's a very smart individual. I thought it was very, very interesting that he stepped down. He does have a young family. I know that. And guys, as a Phillies fan, you know where I'm going. Like, I mean, this would be perfect. John Middleton, give me the money and get out of the way. Like, no, he could come to Philly. Maybe he takes the year off, and maybe they let McPhail, God forbid, stay in this year, and they let the interim, as Derek has said, Ned Rice is, he knows the organization. They just do what they got to do this offseason, make a couple moves. The Mets are interesting. We're going to get into them in a little bit, but I don't know. I guess Sandy Alderson doesn't really want to get out of the way, he said. He kind of wants to be in there a lot. So Theo doesn't make a lot of sense there. No, I think, and I know Phil made a great point earlier to us, he might end up really becoming big in an expansion type of deal. Right? I think Nashville was the name.
Yeah, just to hop in there, there's some rumors swirling around, just seeing from what he's been talking about. I think he wants to take the year off, and then there's rumors, there's Dave Dombrowski that's kind of heading up spearheading ownership group for like an expansion team, and there's talks Theo might join him there, because it doesn't sound like he wants to get back in the GM world, but we'll see, but I think
connection. It's all about, and think about, you mentioned about Ning there, whatever. I mean, I'm trying to get that name right. But honestly, like, the Derek Jeter, just think about Derek Jeter. Do you know how many connections that guy has to have? Like Kevin Cash, just think about it. Like, I love he hired her because it's showing you women are very powerful and they can do the job just as well as men. Like, we could have a whole show on that, but that's important. And she worked under Giants guys. She was Gabe Kapler had nice things to say about her.
And she was the assistant GM with Cashman for those Yankee dynasty teams. So I mean, she's got the pedigree. So
learn about it. Exactly. So, I mean, it just shows you this connection of baseball and sports is that, Derek made a good point earlier too. Jed Hoyer now a 5-year deal. So the Cubs, Derek, I will agree with you. Chris Bryant, probably not a Cub. It's opening day. That's a prediction I have. He's going to go somewhere. Now, what do they do with Rizzo? Maybe you build a little more around him. He's not terribly old, but he's also kind of, I know Phil alluded to this in the show with the postseason. That team was feared before. They're not feared anymore. You can get rid of a Javi Baez. Exactly. They're getting old,
getting old, a little complacent too. So
exactly. So bottom line is, if my prediction, I agree with Phil. Maybe Theo does do that with Dombrowski, and he's like a guy spearheading that. That'd be a great move for him. And good luck, Theo, because you've had also a great career. He's going to the Hall of Fame, guys. He won 2 World Series. So
he's gonna
to stand next to each other as far as
he's gonna go down as one of probably the best GM of MLB history. At least if he's not the top one, he's at least considered as one of the top 3. So
right, and he's had money, so that's been nice for him. And Billy Bean, look at that guy. He never has money, and look what he does. Can you imagine him in a big market? Right.
Mm-hmm. So who can say that they helped to end 2 of the longest championship streaks in sports history. So in the Red Sox and the Cubs. So maybe he'll come to Seattle next.
Mariners could definitely use someone like that. I'll tell you that. Although DePoto is pretty good too.
He's making moves.
Well,
what do we got next, Joe?
This is the big one, and it's not because his wallet is big. It's because this guy's worth $14 billion. I mean, money, right? No, listen, Steve Cohen is, he might be the talk of the offseason. He is good. The lot's going to surround Queens this year. A former fan, right? He's a fan guy. Sounds like he's saying a lot of the right things. Here's my prediction, and you guys, I will get into this. He is absolutely going to make 2 big moves. I'm not saying 2 big free agents. There's going to be a trade coming too, I believe. So I'm saying 1 trade and 1 free agent.
Well, we're going to get into some predictions, but I've got the Mets labeled as some of my picks. So I think you're on something there, Joe. For sure.
Agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. And it hurts me to say that. You know that. But yeah. Derek, let me pose this question. What do you think about, how does he start? What is his first, maybe, idea? What's he going to do?
It's going to be with a bang. You're going to hear the fireworks going off in New York. It's actually $14.6 million, Joe. So that is an extra, $600 million or billion. Sorry, 14.6 billion. That's another $600 million. Yeah, and well, he did bring back Sandy Alderson. Whether that's a good thing or not, I don't know. But he is comfortable with the organization. What was his prediction? He said 3 to 5 years he wants to be a champion.
He gave off.
Well, you don't do that by sitting out your first off season. So I guarantee there's some sort of moves. Whether or not he has to overpay to do it, I don't think it matters. But like you said, Joe, he's saying all the right things. He's doing it for the fans. He wants the fans to taste a championship that they haven't seen since the 80s. And as a fanboy himself, he talked about at Shea Stadium, and the name is blanking me where it was before that. But he wants to win, and he's going to try to give them a winner. And that's going to be by bringing in all the big money. And hey, if he's got it, you might as well use it. So
yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how the teams like the Braves, the Marlins, and all of them, the Nationals, the Phillies, how all of them react.
They're going to feel pressure.
All these moves that they're going to make. Yeah. Are they going to do something stupid and bring someone in?
Well, before we get too far, let's remember there's still the Mets, and it's still Chris Frank.
That's very true.
So,
and listen, you can't always throw money at problems.
Yeah.
Look at their infield, for instance. They have a decent infield. Now, you can trade maybe, and I heard this, and I almost died. You could trade Alonso. You're going to get a haul back. But do you want to do it? He's homegrown. He's a great player. You know what I mean? Like there's that sort of overreaction. Or, oh yeah, let's go sign Trevor Bauer for 6 years and like $200 million. And he blows out his arm in year 2 of the contract. Like, so this is the stuff that's going to be interesting to get to.
But does either him or one of the other general managers go and make a move like, oh, I'm going to give you a nice transition here, Joe. Make a move like Robinson Cano to the Mariners that they did for 10 years and $240 million,
Juicing.
and end up with something that they a contract that a team can't handle. Maybe he forces that pressure. Luckily, we pushed that contract off, as we will go into next. But
yeah, no, I mean, listen, there's always going to be that like quick fix, right? They have Jeff McNeil too. That's a name. He plays all over the place, but he can play second base. Well, we're going to get to it in a little while, but DJ LeMahieu is a name everybody wants. So I wouldn't put past the Mets. He wants to be in New York. If the Yankees go another route, God forbid if they go another route, and you know the route I'm talking about, middle infield, LeMahieu will be gone because they're going to have to pay that guy and extend him.
Don't upset me already, because if DJ the Yankees, I'm going to be very upset.
Well, I'm just saying there's a shortstop in the other division that I know they're going to target, and we'll get to him. Yeah. But yeah, listen, this is what happens with these teams. There's only so many players to go around. So this is what I think is stressful. I made that comment earlier. I'm going to stick by it. To be a general manager, to be an owner, to be a president, that has got to be so hard to try to do what you do to bring in a top guy. To go through and wine them and dine them, and I mean, it's got to be difficult.
Because I'm sure half of them end up being flops, so it's a risky business.
Very risky. Well, Derek and Phil, this guy I have no remorse for. Not once, but twice. As Derek texted me the other day, Robinson Cano was caught PEDs. Now, somebody made a good point. The NFL, you can get caught, right? Or they don't come down with a great penalty. But baseball is doing a good thing because this has been a problem for a lot of years now. Okay, if Barry Bonds doesn't make the Hall of Fame, it's on his own head, even though Barry Bonds should be in the Hall of Fame. But I'm just saying. No, Robinson Cano, what are you doing? That's what I got to say, guys. What was he thinking?
I think he didn't issue an apology this time, so he's definitely he knew what he was doing. And I think I don't know if you guys saw this, but they didn't have steroid testing as rampant this year. They weren't deemed as essential. So he just took advantage of that and he got caught. So
yeah,
I think he had an outside chance at the Hall of Fame before this positive test.
Yeah.
He can kiss that goodbye now. I forget how much time's left on his contract, but I doubt he's going to be. I know, Derek, you kind of mentioned trying to move him, but I doubt anyone's going to want him at this stage.
Great hitter, guys. Like this is.
Well, yeah, but now that he's tested positive twice.
Oh yeah.
He's a great hitter. You got to think like that.
But in New York, he was a great hitter. Do you think he was doing it in New York?
If he's tested positive twice, I think he's been cheating all along because he's been maintaining these positive numbers. I mean, you've seen it before. These guys get positive over and over again. It's not just these 2 times. I think these are the only 2 times he's gotten caught. So
right. That's a good point.
I think
so. Yeah. Well, I think he's got 2 more years after this. So that's kind of.
Plus he's what, 35, 36. He's getting up there.
38.
38. Okay, so even older than that. So
yep. He was going to be a Mariner until he was going to be a Mariner until he was 40. Yes.
He's going to retire. He's going to retire, guys.
But yeah, and now I don't know if anyone said, but in Major League Baseball, they remove that you don't get any money. He gets nothing. Yep. He was supposed to get probably around 24 million.
Yep, 24 million.
28.
Not yet.
He's had a lot of money in his career, though. Again, can we feel bad for him?
Yes. No.
I mean, I know what you're saying. I get your point there.
Not
being very stupid. Like it's guaranteed money he was getting. So he could have been absolute crap all season, and he still was making his money. So it's just not a smart. Not smart.
There's no remorse this time around. Second time, I mean, if he tests positive a third time, he's done. He's banned for life. So he's got.
I'm a Yankees fan, by the way, guys. All in our audience here in the timeout with Derek and Joe. Phil's a Yankees fan. So
Nope, he bounced. He's gone. He's dead.
I will ask you both, where do you think, just a quick answer, do you think, because we may end up talking about it later on, do you think that the Mets go within the system to cover second base, or do they go outside the system?
I think there's a pretty big trade piece out there that I think the Mets will target, that I've heard they're going to target. And if they don't get him, then there's a guy that plays second base on the market. I think we kind of talked about LeMahieu and stuff. So, but yeah, I think they go out. I think, you were talking about wanting to make a splash this first season with Cohen and Alderson back. I think they'll go out. I think they'll get a big name instead of and then if they miss out on those guys, I mean, they have Jeff McNeil that can just slide over, play second base all full time. So there's no real need to go out and make one. But I think with all eyes on Cohen, I think he wants to make a splash. So that's my guess. So
listen, I like that. I do, but I wonder if center field isn't so much the target as we're going to get into. I think up the middle, catcher, pitcher, center field are going to be two of their big
yep.
guys, right? But here's the thing. I don't just like McNeil. What about former NLE second baseman Cesar Hernandez? He's a free agent, and nobody's really – he would be a sneaky good move. The guy hits 280. And I know it's my Phillies bias.
Is he much better than McNeil, though?
Probably not, but
know.
I'm just saying it would hurt Phillies fans' feelings if Cesar Hernandez is wearing a Mets uniform after 10 years. But no, he's just that type of guy, though, steady Eddie, But Jeff McNeil would be my pick too, and also that other guy we'll get to. Maybe we can mention him later. He has 2 letters with his first name, but.
So we will throw out a couple of MLB signings here that we made, smaller signings, nothing big. Drew Smiley, finally a pitcher going to Atlanta, maybe not as big of a pitcher as they would have wanted, but Drew Smiley, someone who can maybe eat up some innings. Robbie Ray was signed by the Toronto Blue Jays. He was traded from Arizona to the Blue Jays during the trade deadline last year, but never really found the stuff that he had over playing for the Diamondbacks in previous few years. A Mets signing, Malik Smith, was a little disappointing when he played for the Mariners, but one of the fastest players in Major League Baseball. So it should be interesting to see how they use him, or if he's more just a pinch runner or whatnot. And then 2 pitchers who ended up signing qualifying offers for their teams. Kevin Gossman for the San Francisco Giants, and Marcus Stroman going back to the Mets, who has not thrown one single inning for the Mets yet, but they are hoping that he will be the number 2, probably 3 or 4 starter, hopefully, if someone like Noah Syndergaard can come back. Joe, any those names jump out at you that you would like to talk about and how they may impact their team moving forward?
Robbie Ray is really interesting. He pitched really good for the Diamondbacks. He's actually a former national prospect, if I'm correct. He got traded, I think, might have been the Scherzer deal. I know he was a national at one time, and then I think he got to the Tigers because Scherzer was a Tiger, and I think that's what happened. And then Ray ended up in Arizona. But the bottom line here is that Robbie Ray can strike you out, but he walks a lot of guys, so he's that type of guy. But he doesn't have to be a starter, and if they get one more, which they could be in the market for a starting pitcher, I would say Robbie Ray's a good guy out of the bullpen. The other guy I will touch on is Stroman. I mean, yeah, he's okay, but he's not moving the needle so far. So it shows you what the Mets have to do. And Stroman will be a 4 or 5 right now in this rotation if they get an ace, along with DeGrom. Because I said that because DeGrom as good as he is, there's still other guys that could go along 1A and 1B. So, to me, Stroman and Ray are two guys to watch out for.
Yeah, and then I'll just touch on Drew Smiley coming to my Braves. Alex Anthopoulos he's had a string of these 1-year signings, just like prove it deals. He kind of started with Josh Donaldson 2-3 years ago. He did it last year with Marcell Ozuna and Cole Hamels. Cole Hamels obviously didn't pan out with some injuries, but Drew Smiley's only coming in 1 year with $11 million. Since he's come back from injury when he was out for 3 years, he's been a different pitcher. He's a more strikeout based, more harder thrower. And as long as he can give us more starts than Cole Hamels did, I think it's going to be a win, especially if he can pitch like but it is Drew Smiley we're talking about, so that's not always a given. So, but I like the move, at least for the Braves, a little added depth until Soroka comes back, which hopefully should be before the All-Star break. But I like the move for the Braves. So
definitely, he's gonna be all right. He'll help the young guys in Wright and Anderson and those guys. He'll be a nice fit in there. Smiley's a decent pitcher.
Yeah.
So we're just going to jump into our next topic here. And as Joe mentioned in the beginning, we are going to highlight 5 of the top free agents in Major League Baseball, as well as 2 big names who are supposedly supposed to be in the trade market and maybe on the move. We're just gonna talk a little bit and talk about our predictions maybe of where those players may end up. I don't know if we wrote down any money or years and whatnot, but we can delve into that if we want to.
I just did teams.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one of the top pitchers on the market right now, Joe, is Trevor Bauer. Obviously, he won the Cy Young in the National League this year, so everyone is going to be going after him, I'm sure, if they have the money, right?
Right. I had said the Yankees, Mets, Phillies, and Jays are 4 of the teams I think will go after him. And I'm sure there's numerous teams. The Braves could go after him, right? We don't know. I have him. He is from Southern California. He is a UCLA product.
No, don't say it.
I have him going.
Don't say it.
No, you're going to be surprised. I have him going to help out Mike Trout in Anaheim on a 1-year deal. That's the only reason I can make myself do this, because it's a 1-year deal. And I didn't let him go to the Mets. So that was another reason in my mind. Really, I think he could end up out there.
I thought you were going to say the Dodgers.
No.
Okay. All right. I think I think you're on to something with the 1-year deal. I think he said multiple times he only wants 1-year deals.
What it sounds like.
And for me, another thing he said in addition to the 1-year deals, he wants to pitch on short rest every single start. And there's only going to be a certain amount of teams that are going to let him do that. And one team that has already said it is very familiar with him, and that's Cincinnati. I think he stays with Cincinnati. They're very on the cusp. They made the playoffs this year. Sonny Gray's going to be back. Luis Castillo's going to be back. All the hitters are back. I think their Cincinnati Reds are really close to taking over the Cubs as that top team. So I think Bauer wants to do – plus Bauer's got that really big media company that he runs, Momentum. There's not a lot of teams that are going to let him have that access. And I think Cincinnati had it this year. And I think –
I got to ask you this, not to interrupt you, but I do have a question. Do you think losing their pitching coach, now in Philly, do you think that makes a difference? Because he did say he liked him. Not saying he's going to be in Philly. I already told you guys my prediction.
It's probably a big deal since he's a big driveline guy, and that's Trevor Bauer's thing. He's a driveline guy, disciple pretty much.
Yeah.
But I think he's close with a lot of guys on those teams, and I think given what Bauer wants to do, I think he's going to. At least that's my guess. So what do you?
Interesting. That's interesting. They might do a little more than if they keep Trevor Bauer.
Yeah. So what do you think,
Derek?
Joe and I did not talk about these, but believe it or not, I have the Angels as well. I read the same thing. I read as Phil said about he only wants 1-year deals, and I thought, well, who is someone who needs to win, who's looking to win immediately? And it immediately jumped to the Angels. Obviously the Astros showed that they are not, maybe they'll maybe Springer will leave, and
I don't even think he's going to go to it. Were you guessing Houston? Because I don't think he goes there anyway.
What did I say? I did say Houston, but especially if he leaves, then that leaves it wide open, because I've never been a huge proponent for the A's, but I think the Angels just need to go for it. And I mean, they don't have a number one. Dylan Bundy pitched very well this year, actually, leaving Baltimore. Well, I mean, better than he had been pitching, at least.
No, I'm saying he's still not that number one quality that they need.
No.
Maybe they trade for Lance Lynn, guys. Maybe they trade for Lance Lynn too. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Mike Minor. I mean, they got to get another pitcher. They're probably not. They signed Howard. He's still going to get a lot of money for 1 year. But
they have Rendon, they have Trout, so I figure. And I wrote down 1 year, $30 million. I think they said they throw something real big at him.
No, I think if he's gonna,
he still loves Cincinnati.
If he wants that 1 year deal, I think that's about right with the money. I think it's going to be right around that range too.
Mm.
Interesting.
Okay. The next player we have here, catcher is really, there's not a lot of great ones in Major League Baseball right now.
Unreal.
To get one, you're going to have to pay. And JT Realmuto is the best catcher by far on the market.
It's not arguable.
We'll start with you, Phil. JT. Obviously, I think it's pretty set that he's not going back to Philadelphia. So.
Well, I wouldn't be so.
No.
No, I think it's going to be two teams that get him. I think it's two teams that. One is Philly. I think Bryce Harper's been really advocating that they re-sign him. And the other one is we spent a lot of time talking about them already this episode. I think it's either going to be Philly or the New York Mets. I think the Mets have a needed catcher with Ramos not really producing. I don't believe Ramos is back. If he is back, he's still
can't run. He can't run though.
Yeah, exactly. So I think Realmuto fits the need for the Mets. He's a big name, especially. He would be a big help for that lineup. So I think he ultimately ends up back with Philadelphia. But if he does leave, I think it's going to be with the Mets. So
all right, you cannot forget, and I'm surprised you didn't say this. I would watch out for the Yankees. I know they can get McCann or Zunino, but I just be careful because you trade Sanchez, and then what do you do? If Realmuto wants to stay in Philly, which he said that to people, he's like, I want to stay here. But the thing that people are forgetting is the Phillies aren't signing him for a $170 million deal, which is being talked about. Like, he's not getting 120. He's probably not getting 140, guys. He's getting a lot of money. He's going to get like a Joe Mauer deal. But he's probably going to get less years. I have him for 5 years and 170. And I know that's a lot. But I have a disappointing Christmas coming for myself. I have him going to the Mets. I don't think the Phillies are going to do it, but you will see why I think the Phillies will be okay. I think they lose out on Realmuto, though. I think he goes to New York.
I think you're overestimating how much money there's going to be on the table for all these owners. They took a big bath this season with COVID and everyone.
But not Cohen though. Cohen.
COVID.
Oh no! I know, but Cohen is.
Oh yeah. He could.
He's the guy that can throw that money, and I mean, I'm sure.
That's true.
I'm just gonna say the Mets. Derek, I love to hear this.
No, I said the Mets too. I think they're gonna probably send him whatever money he wants. But let me throw this one out there. What do we think? Obviously, they went all in this past trading deadline, so the farm is kind of gone. They don't have a catcher. They're dealing with another championship team in their division. What about the San Diego Padres? They tried going for him last year, if I recall, to no avail. So, or maybe it was the year before that when he was a free agent. What do we think about maybe the San Diego Padres getting in there?
Noah's brother's
So,
there, right?
so I think with the Padres, they brought him up last year. They have a really hot shot prospect.
Oh, Mejia.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think with that's Luis Campusano. They brought him
Okay.
up. They brought him up a little. They brought him up a little time last year. He was really producing well for that week or so. Then he got hurt. He was done for the year. I like it. I like the Padres. I think they are going for it, but I think they'll go for it in a different direction. I don't think they'll block Campusano because besides Campusano, I'm blanking on the name, but they also have another. I think they have two prospects, Campusano and one other guy. I think they'll handle the
Abrams. Oh no.
And Nola. Yeah, Austin Nola is also catching.
Yeah.
Now, three teams to just keep an eye on. Atlanta, if they trade Darno, which would be kind of silly, but just throw it out there because it has been talked about. He would go to Atlanta. He has said that. Because you know me, I'm reading a lot of Phillies news. If he would, the St. Louis Cardinals, because they're going to lose Molina probably, or the Washington Nationals.
I could see the Nationals because with the Braves, I think the Braves are kind of similar to the Padres, where they have they have Darno signed, and then they have Contreras, who's the brother of the Cubs catcher. He played this year due to injuries and stuff. He just wasn't ready to hit, but he was good. He was good. He was really good defensively. I think he's the next catcher of the future for the Braves. But I do like the Nationals pick. I think they have
upsets the Phillies. Upsets Harper.
Exactly.
I mean, that's huge. Like, just think about that. Bryce Harper will not be happy. So, Derek, we're going on to an outfielder, aren't we?
Yeah, and we just kind of mentioned him. George Springer from the Houston Astros. You've seen a couple names. You've seen the Mets, maybe even going back to the Houston Astros as possible options. He is, I believe, 31 years old now, so he probably wouldn't get a long contract, maybe a medium contract. But Joe, where do you have? What do you think about Springer?
Well, I told you guys from the beginning, and I got to stay consistent with it. I'm not changing my mind. I think he ends up in Queens. He's a Connecticut kid. You got Real Muto there. You got Springer. Look at that right there, catcher to center field. I do want to say though that I have him for a 4-year deal. I don't know if that's too much. I said like 100 mil. I mean, it could be 3, maybe a little less money. But the bottom line is the guy is a postseason nightmare. That's all he does is hit, right? That's all he does.
Yep.
And he can play the outfield. No doubt he can play the outfield. Even if you don't trade Nimmo, you can use Nimmo in center and move Springer to right. And Conforto's really good. I'd move him to left. You can do anything you want in that outfield. Again, I heard the Red Sox too, guys. That would be interesting because they need to kind of reload a little bit, and that'd be an interesting move by Boston. But and again, don't count the Phils out because if you get them on a lesser deal, maybe. But no, I think, man, I'm telling you, Real Muto and Springer for me in New York makes a lot of sense. Bill?
I'm with you. I'm with you there. I have the Mets too for Springer. I think the Mets have really struggled with center field the last couple of years. I mean, they brought in Billy Hamilton this year. I mean, that just tells you where their center field are. So I think Springer fills that need because honestly, I don't think Real Muto goes there, but I can see him there. But if they miss out on Real Muto, then obviously Springer's the next big bet. And I think I have Springer going there. And I think he gets joined by another guy we're going to be talking about in a little bit. But
Phil, question real quick. Then, Derek, I want to know, of course, what you have to say about Springer. Phil, you keep saying Real Muto to the Phillies. So where do the Mets go catcher-wise then?
That's a good question. I haven't really thought.
I just want to throw it out there.
I don't really know what their plan B would be. I mean, they can have Gary Sanchez for like a bucket of balls. I mean,
I was gonna say maybe McCann, maybe James McCann,
possibly too. Yeah, I have to.
Suzuki.
I'd take a look at the other catching options out there, but
Yadier Molina, Suzuki, McCann, and Zunino, and Sanchez are the 5, I think.
Yeah,
it's kind of bare, right? It's
yeah,
tough.
it is bare.
I appreciate your honesty, Phil. I appreciate your honesty.
Yeah.
So I will say, I think the Mets put the money elsewhere. I don't know if they need a huge upgrade in the outfield. I I do think that they may go more for. They've talked about a Jackie Bradley type, someone who's good defensively because they're a little iffy in the outfield. Um, but I have Springer going back to Houston. I think that they're probably going to try to give him a lot of money to keep the band together. And because if one leaves, then it could be a domino effect, especially with everything that's happened there. But I do
Brand
wonder
issue.
if it keeps those players there longer because they know if they go to another team, they're going to get booed everywhere. So
Yeah.
I wonder if they would be more inclined to sign a contract back with the Astros. Um, Another intriguing outfield hitter, maybe although maybe he might be more of a DH these days um, with his knees and whatnot. But Marcell Ozuna, who played very well for the Atlanta Braves this year, Joe, middle of lineup bat could be interesting, and we'll pose this question to Phil later about the DH. If they bring it back in the National League, maybe he's more inclined to go back to the National League. But otherwise, where do we think Ozuna ends up? Middle of lineup bat.
I mean, yeah, he's a good player, and he's proven in the postseason. You guys are going to laugh at this, but it's really funny how Derek is honed in on the AL Central because I'm going to go there. And I thought Nationals at first, right? I'm thinking, maybe Washington to help them out, maybe back to Atlanta. No, I say Brantley leaves. I say Springer leaves. I say Ozuna plays left field and DHs for the Houston Astros.
Hmm.
A 2-year deal.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes a little sense. I mean, I'm not saying, I haven't heard much about him, but he'll be one of those guys that signs in a very small way, but then all of a sudden he hits the ball.
I think for Ozuna, I think more than anyone, I think the DH rule is going to really matter what they decide to do, especially for this, if it goes away for this season and comes back in 2022. Because he really showed when he was in St. Louis and Miami before that, he really can't play the outfield. Like, he is a big liability there. The Braves didn't even bother playing him in the outfield for
Right.
I mean, only when they were in a bind did they play him then. And even then, I think
Acuna, Riley. I mean, they got
so for my guess, it's a contingent on the DH rule. I'm hoping the DH is around for 2021. And if it's even gone for a year, I can still see this happening. But I'm hoping he goes back to Atlanta. He was really a big infusion into that team. He had a big presence on the younger guys, Acuna, Albies. He really was like a more role model figure for those guys. I think they really took
Big brother. Yeah.
Big brother, and he was a masher right behind Freeman in that lineup. I mean,
Yeah.
when you have him third behind Acuna and then the MVP and Freeman, I mean, those are two stalwarts in the National League. I mean, I think the Braves need a big bat like that. I think he was really big. But, if there's no DH, will the Braves really hold on to him when they really don't have a spot in the outfield for him with Riley, Acuna, and
Pache.
Pache is going to be a full-time starter in next year. So are they really going to sign him and then not play him in the outfield for a year? So that's more wishful thinking for me, hoping he goes back to Atlanta. But if there's no DH, I think an American League team will sign him. So that's
both sides too. DH needs to be both sides. I think it can't just be one league and not the other. I hate that.
Yeah. So that's what they're saying.
Yeah.
That's what they're saying. It might come back in the collective bargaining agreement. But for some reason, I don't know why MLB thinks it's a good idea to get rid of it this year. I think it's all a negotiating tactic. So
I agree.
Yeah.
Derek, where do you have Marcel going?
I went on the side of I think they keep the DH in the National League, and I figure she's got to make a big splash in her first year, right?
He's
I
going
say
back
goes
home.
to the Miami Marlins.
He was drafted. He was drafted by them.
I say they have Marte there, and I mean, Aguilar is nice, but you really need that true middle of the lineup bat. I think he would fit in perfectly there. I don't know about playing the
Play
outfield
first
or
too,
not,
I bet.
but I
Could play
couldn't tell you what
first,
their
maybe.
outfield looks like.
Yeah,
But
no.
hey, I think he would fit in great there. I think a nice 2-3 year deal would be good. But hey, we'll see if he ends up leaving the
Derek, I
Braves,
like
going
that,
to the
Derek.
Marlins. That's a big swing. This one might be a little easier because I think there's kind of one team that's above the rest right now in terms of the rumors. But DJ LeMahieu was amazing for the Yankees this year. I believe he led the league in average, right? And Joe, I think the Yankees are technically the popular choice here. Do you have him going somewhere else, or do you think he probably goes back with the Yankees?
I actually have him going to the Washington Nationals. They don't have a starting second baseman, and they gotta shore up certain points of their team. And if they do that and they get a third baseman somehow, which there's two out there that we know of that could be traded, the Nationals look to be really formidable in the coming years. Yeah, I mean, I can see him going back to New York. Like, I'd be crazy to say that. But again, the Yankees have assets and they have money. And I know they don't have a lot of money, but they have money. And they can still go out and get a decent middle infielder. And Colton Wong's been thrown out there. He's like the number 50th free agent, I think. But he's thrown out
do you
there.
really want Colton Wong over LeMahieu?
Joe, I want to stop you. If they choose to go with Colton Wong over DJ LeMahieu, I'm going with the Yankees. I'm gonna say that right now on this podcast. I'm going with the Yankees if that's what happens.
You know what I heard on the Michael Kay show? I've actually enjoyed listening to him. I like him and Peter Rosenberg and the other guy. I forget his name, but they just talked about who's more important to the Yankees. You ready for this? Aaron Judge, who they selected like 12, 13, whatever he was that year, and then DJ LeMahieu.
It's not that out of the question because DJ's been their best player the last 2 years.
I know, and I agree with you. And I said the same thing.
Yeah.
But there is a need for teams at second base. And I just believe with him being so good, National League teams in Solomon, Colorado, remember that, and our fans out there, like he's a guy that grew up in Colorado with Arenado. Now he's not going back to Colorado. I'm not saying that. But I'm just saying that National League teams, he's on the radar. He's not like in that big A word. He's not he's not like he's not there. He's not in the grass somewhere. No, DJ's a great player. I really enjoy watching him hit. And Phil, for your sake, I hope he's a Yankee, but I don't know. I got a sneaky feeling that Washington. And again, the Yankees can do something else at shortstop. They can, I don't know, they can do something, but move Claiborne a second and go get somebody else.
Well, they could trade for Lindor, but if they don't.
There it is. That's what I was saying.
Yeah, but I'd much rather just keep DJ. I think DJ's been. he was third in MVP voting this year. I think he's a catalyst for that lineup. He's a mainstay at the top of the lineup. And if the Yankees don't sign him, then I don't.
You're gonna be upset. You're gonna be upset.
So that's my.
Derek, if he goes elsewhere, we gotta have Phil on right away because that show might be epic. And then JT doesn't go. Derek, where you got DJ LeMahieu going?
Well, yeah, I'll just leave it quick. I think he goes back. He's probably the priority for the Yankees, so I have him going back to the Yankees. I don't see why not.
All right.
Yeah, I think for the Yankees, they've got two priorities. It's bringing back DJ and it's bringing back Tanaka. I think those are the two big ones coming in. So,
John Lester. I keep saying, I think John Lester ends up there too.
He's done.
The lefty.
If we're bringing back a lefty, I'd rather just have Paxton back than Lester.
Okay, I got
struggle at times.
So speaking of, and his name has come up several times in this podcast already, a popular trade candidate is Francisco Lindor for the Cleveland Indians. Phil, real quick, do you think, obviously it doesn't seem like he's sticking around in Cleveland. Who do you think is the best trade candidate?
Yeah, I think Cleveland's made it clear that they're pinching pennies. I think they're going to be trying to reduce payroll any way they can. They already cut Brad, who was one of the best closers in baseball last year. They let him go. I think they're showing signs they're not keeping any big money on the books. So I think Lindor is definitely gone. I think the other big trade candidate, Nolan Arenado, bet more on Lindor getting traded this offseason. And I have it down to 2 teams I think he's going to go to. I think it's either going to be the Mets making a big splash. They need a shortstop need. I don't think Rosario's played up to the standards they thought, as he was like a highly regarded prospect a couple years ago. I don't think he's panned out that way, although he did have a nice season last year. Or the team he's been long time rumored to, and they're just coming off the World Series. They're just coming off the MVP in the playoffs, Corey Seager. But Corey Seager only has 1 more year left on his deal, and Lindor's been out there, and it's never been the Dodgers' nature to shy away from a big name, big trade. So in my gut, I think he might end up in LA. I think that's my guess. LA or New York. So those are my 2. What do you guys think?
All right. Well, this is so difficult. I look at Francisco Lindor, and right away I think of J-Roll Jimmy Rollins. And I've read certain places, he's going to be probably 5 or 6 teams are going to be seriously contending for him. The Dodgers, Phil, is a great situation because they have so many guys to give. I wouldn't sleep on the Mets because if they don't do great in free agency, I think they'll absolutely be in, and he would be their Jose Reyes. Washington, I wouldn't sleep on either. The Yankees, right? But listen, I'm going to throw it out there. I said the Mets go get Real Muto. Harper's upset. How do you make Harper happy? You get a 4-time All-Star. Now, the only way this happens, and I will say to myself, the only way this happens, if the Phillies can literally sell the Indians on one of 3 everyday players. They need to sell them on 1 more year of McCutchen. They need to maybe Kingery, and I know they're not great, and the potential of prospect Bryson Stott, who is our best shortstop in the minor leagues right now. There's a high draft pick. Francisco Morales is another name at number 4. Listen, I know it's a long shot, guys, but I'm just saying, I didn't give us JT. JT. So I'm just hoping.
Joe, you're hoping for all these big names, but the Phillies don't really need all these big names. They need bullpen guys, and you're not really naming any bullpen guys.
Liam Hendricks, buddy. What's on the list? Yeah, no, I know. You're right. You got to call me out on that.
But
Derek, it's like the Chiefs, Derek. It's like the Chiefs. All right, Derek, Lindor to the Phillies. Derek, what do you got?
No, that is not what I have. No, I have him going to the Mets. I think because I think it also will matter. There's only 1 year on his contract, remember, so it has to be somewhere potentially where he's going to want to go long term, and I think they're the ones who are going to give him the money. I did also write down maybe because I talked about him getting Bauer, so maybe the Angels dive in there a little bit and get rid of maybe move over a Joe Adell type. Over to the Indians in
Dini's rumored there too, I guess.
Should be interesting. So
that's a good move, Derek. I give you credit for that one.
So real quick, we're running a little low on time. So Nolan Arenado is probably one of the best hitters in the major leagues right now. Also on the rumor mill.
Probably best third baseman.
If he doesn't go, Joe, from Colorado, where do you think he may get traded to?
Now, this is if Phil's wrong. If Lindor doesn't go to LA, which, again, I can see that happening, Justin Turner's a free agent. I actually see him going to the Mets just for, a food for thought, former Met. I really believe, unless Bryant gets traded, because there's always this what if. If Bryant gets traded, maybe the Cubs jump on Arenado. But no, I think he actually goes to the Dodgers and they just become a super team. I mean, Nolan Arenado, why not go to somewhere you're going to win? And I mean, I know he doesn't have control over it, but other than that, maybe the Yankees. But Urshela is hitting, so I don't see that.
I think I'll just keep this quick. I think they've been rumored to him for multiple years now. I think they finally go get him, and that's going to be the St. Louis Cardinals. I think they've been rumored to him for a long time. They've never pulled the trigger. I think this is the time they pull the trigger. So I think that's what's going to happen with Nolan, if he does, in fact, get traded this offseason. So.
And we have to remember he does have 6 years, $199 million left on his contract, including $35 million this year. And he does have a player option. He can opt out after this season if he so wishes.
Cardinals a
So
great place, by the way. That's a great fit because it's not a major market, and he's not used to it. Colorado's not a major market, so kudos to you, Phil, on that one. Like that, Phil.
So that'll finish off our hot stove topics for the top free agents. And we just wanted to finish off here while we have Phil here. Joe and I both kind of tackled these topics back in episode 10, if anyone wants to look back at that episode. I believe it was the World Series recap and then the future of baseball is what we titled it. But while we had Phil, I wanted to grab his opinions on these different topics and his view on the future of baseball. Now, the first topic we're delve into is, and we kind of talked about it briefly here. What are your thoughts on the universal DH, making sure that it stays in the National League as well as the American League? Do you like it that it's it's just the National League stays with the pitchers, or do you like the syncrecy that they have this year?
I think I touched on it when we were talking about Marcell Ozuna. I think where baseball is right now, it just doesn't make sense to have the pitchers hit anymore. They just don't train. They don't hit. There's only a select few that actually like hitting. I think it's obvious, to everyone but Major League Baseball. I think DH needs to go. I think it's time. I just think this is an offensive team, offensive laced league now. I think now I don't think it's going to be. I've heard a lot of rumblings saying it's not happening this year, but it'll be back when they do another collective bargaining agreement in 2022. So we'll have to endure some pitchers hitting for one more year, and then I think it's gone. I think DH across the board.
Now, as far as obviously that was one change that happened this year. A few other changes were, one was they changed the amount of teams that make the playoffs. It normally is 10 teams, 5 from each league. This year it was 8 teams from each league. Over half of the league ended up making the playoffs. And you saw that with teams like the Astros and the Brewers both had under 500 records making the playoffs. Now, I don't know if they have anything in place yet, but normally it's 12 teams or 10 teams. Do you like the 10 teams making the playoffs? Would you like to see them move it up to maybe 12 or keep it at a 16?
I think if everything's back to normal in the spring next year, and we're back to a 162 game schedule, I think the less amount of teams, the better. I think that'll put more emphasis on the regular season. I think I would like to maybe add 1 or 2 more in each league, bringing it up to 12 or 14 total. I think there's a lot of talks. There was a lot of talks doing 7 teams in each division. I can see that happening. I think 6 might be a number, but I think what it was this year, it was okay for this year, but going forward, I think 8 in each division might be a little too many. But I'd be fine with 5 or 6. Go back to where it was, or if you want to add 1 or 2 more teams in each, that'll be fine. I think that'll work.
Yeah, I think Joe and I said that in the previous episode. I think we would prefer more, maybe a 6, so you can have 2 teams having a bye or whatnot. But this other one, I probably foresee this one going away. Maybe this was just to move games along a little bit, and you saw it more in the overseas in Japan and then whatnot. How they have a runner at second base to start the extra innings. Do you think that's something?
This has been something that the minor leagues have been having in the last couple of years. I think, but that's just because they don't want, the games down in the minor leagues don't really mean as much. They're just for development purposes, so it makes sense down there to just speed up the games. I personally don't like it for the major leagues. I've heard some players like it, some players don't. Me personally, though, I don't like it. I like the longer extra inning games. I just, if they are going to start with a runner on second or a runner on base, I think it should be a runner on first. I think that would be the smarter way to do it. I think runner on second, the scenarios play out a little too familiar a lot of the time. We didn't really see it, but all you have to do is like slap it to the other way, he moves it over and stuff like that. I think with a runner on first, yeah, I think if you do a runner on first, if they want someone on base in extra innings, I think runner on first is the way to go.
You earn second by stealing it, not by just getting there.
Yeah, make them steal the base.
I agree. Yeah, definitely.
Now this last one, which funny enough, we brought it up to Joe before, and he said no. But then eventually, I got him to thinking, no, maybe that is a good idea. So, and we did talk about it a little bit here, with potentially Theo Epstein interested in it. And as I said before, you've seen it, you've heard it a lot in the NBA, not so much in the NFL for a while, but about expansion and bringing in 2 more teams. You would think it would be an even amount, not just one. It's been a long time since over 20 years, I believe, since the MLB brought in the last expansion team. And I think there's a lot of room to be able to bring some in. Don't you think, Phil?
I think with the amount of money these owners have lost this year, I think expansion's a good way for them to recoup some of that. Because the way MLB is set up is, if there's going to be a new team, that new owner pays all the other owners, basically like a pay-to-play fee. However much it is, that's what the owners get. So it's an easy way. The last time there was a work stoppage in '94, I saw that was the last time there was an expansion. So I think that's probably the way to go. I think we touched on it previously, earlier this episode. There's a lot of rumors about an ownership group in Nashville. That could be one spot for a new team. I've heard some stuff, maybe adding another team to join Seattle up north, in the Pacific Northwest. Maybe Portland gets a team. And I think the talent pool is deep enough where you can definitely find 50 odd players for a new expansion team. I think the talent pool is deep enough, especially where it is now. So I think that is something we'll see for sure coming in the future. At least that's what I hope. At least more baseball teams is better. Sure.
And I think that's been the negative against it, right? Is that you'll dilute the talent a little bit.
Yeah, that's
but as we mentioned before, there's a lot of talent that is overseas and in the Far East and even down in the Mexican leagues and Dominican leagues, Venezuelan.
And we're always talking about these prospects that are getting blocked and stuff. So if you open up another team,
oh yeah,
there's always enough players to go around, especially now. So.
And again, as I mentioned before, I'm glad you brought up the Mariners because they are a team that travels the most in Major League Baseball. No one remotely close up there. So yeah, I would absolutely, whether it's Portland or somewhere in West Canada or I don't care.
You'll make Derek's life right now.
It's just even to have a rival, they don't, at least as a Packers fan, I have the Bears and whatnot, but they don't even have a rival up there. They always throw them up against the Padres, and I hate that because why should I hate the Padres?
Yeah. Especially now they're exciting, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. So last one here, Phil, and not so much about the future of baseball, but a bunch of coaching hires. Joe and I did talk about Tony La Russa and AJ Hinch already, but there have been a couple more hires, and one, in fact, just in the past few minutes. First, let me get your thoughts on Tony La Russa, old school guy, joining the Chicago White Sox, and AJ Hinch joining the Detroit Tigers.
So I hated the La Russa signing when it happened. I thought it was just the wrong guy for that team. I think that team is they just align differently than La Russa. And it played out within the first week that it was a bad hire. You know, the DUI stuff came out.
Yeah.
It came out that it was Reinsdorf's decision, not the GM's decision. So have those stuffs coming in, you know, not even a week into the hire, it's just not going to play out, which is a shame because the White Sox are the AL versions of the Padres. You know, that team's loaded with young talent, ready to compete right away. And when you bring in a guy that's not really analytically driven, he's more, like you were saying, old school, I just didn't like it. And then A.J. Hinch, you know, I understood Cora coming back because the cheating allegations with him with the Red Sox weren't as pungent. You know, it wasn't as what was going on in Houston. So, you know, at least the silver lining is he has to go coach the Detroit Tigers, who are just awful. You could consider that part of more part of his punishment, but he does get paid, so it's not that big of a deal. But I don't know. I would have liked him because the way it played out with Detroit, it sounds like, you know, they called him within an hour of the World Series ending, you know, as soon as his suspension was up. So they knew right away they were going to sign him. They didn't really entertain any other names. And I think Alex Cora, I think that was kind of a given. He was going to go back to Boston. I think when they let go of Renicky, I think they that's who it was, right, in Boston, Renicky?
Ron Renicky.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. So when they let him go, I think it was a foregone
deal, right?
Especially when the MLB investigation came out, and it was basically Boston was doing what some other teams were doing, and it wasn't as bad. So I think Cora, I think it was a shot. It was a given he was going to get his second chance with Boston. So I liked one move. I didn't like the other two moves. So.
And Joe, now we did talk about Tony La Russa and AJ Hinch already, but what are your thoughts on Cora coming back to the Red Sox? Do you think that's a reincarnation of the Red Sox again, or are they going to have still some tough days ahead, do we think?
I feel like I guess it's fair to give him a second chance. I mean, he was a part of the Astros regime, but I mean, who knows how much involved he was. I mean, it sounds like he was really contrite about his apology. But man, I look at these guys and I'm like, he played his career. Derek, wasn't he a Mariner at one time? Like, I don't know. You look at these guys and you're like, same with Robinson Cano. You're playing baseball for a living. A lot of us would love to do that. Like, so they are the ones with the talents and are gifted those rights, but then they throw it away by doing stupid stuff. So I don't mind the Red Sox. I don't want to see them win a World Series again probably in the next 20 years, but I don't mind them. I'll take them over the Yankees. Sorry, Phil. But no, listen, I just, you know, the question, to answer your question, I think they're going to be okay, but they're not going to beat the Yankees anytime soon. The Yankees are loaded. And if people don't realize that by now, but watching them last off in the postseason, and you don't know baseball. Sorry.
And don't forget the World Series runner-ups, Tampa Bay Rays. They're not going.
Yeah. No, they're a really good team. I just think of Boston, New York, but you're right. The Tampa Bay Rays, led by Randy.
That division's going to be tough. So
yeah, it's going to be loaded. But I just don't know what it is. Sometimes I don't. Just because I don't like the Yankees, I'm going to give them their credit. The way they scored runs in the postseason, come on, like that. That's a really good team. Mm-hmm. And Boston's going to have to look up at that. They're going to have to get there.
They need some pitching unless they get pitching this offseason. I mean, they'll have Sale coming back. They'll have Eduardo Rodriguez coming back. Hopefully, yeah, very true. Yeah. Well, I think that's where we'll finish it off. Phil, we appreciate you coming on again. Always enjoy having you on and talking baseball. You're very knowledgeable, and we appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
You'll be on soon. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Talk more hot stove.
Maybe more hot stove in just a bit. Joe, well, this will be our final episode before Thanksgiving here. So a lot to be thankful for. So before we get going, Joe, sign us off with just after Thanksgiving here.
Sure. Well, I want to wish everybody a happy holiday out there, to our audience that listens to us week in and week out. And we'll probably come to you next Monday again. This is Monday afternoon we did this show. I'm sure Derek will do his best to get it up, maybe by, we'll say tomorrow. Tuesday, yeah. And then we're going to probably come to you with the college basketball top 25 preview. I've done my homework over the weekend, and that'll be interesting. And Derek, tomorrow night on ESPN at 7 o'clock, it will be the first reveal of the college football playoff. So I might have to discuss that. It might be a little controversial, as I can't wait to see what they do with my Irish up there at the top. Ohio State didn't look great on Saturday. Clemson, all those teams, Cincinnati, BYU. But no, we're going to do some college basketball next week, maybe a little college football. If there's any baseball news, I'm sure we'll have that to you too. And just if you're with family this coming week, just please be safe. Pray that this virus gets lower and that we have a vaccine in the next couple months, because that's a big wish for everybody, I think, right now. And that everybody just has a nice holiday, including you two, my friends.
Yeah, and Joe said it. Thank you, everyone. We, we're probably on about 4 months now of doing this show, so we appreciate everyone supporting us and helping us through, and everyone who helps out and shares and likes and comments. So we appreciate everyone, and thank you very much. And we are thankful for. I hope you're thankful if you're able to be with your family this week, and just as Joe said, please be careful, and we're not going to spread any politics on here, but wear a mask when you can, and just be careful out there. And we will be back to you next week with our college basketball episode. But as always, follow us on Facebook, like, comment, send us an email, Timeout Derek and Joe, and follow us on all podcast platforms. We are available Spotify, Apple, and Google. For Joe Azalina and Phil Angle, thank you for taking time out of your day to spend some time with us at Timeout with Derek and Joe. Take care and stay safe.